Well, once again, it's time for the Exiles Podcast here on Wednesday morning, Cinco de Ciso.
No, it'd be Septo de Mayo.
That's it. I don't know what it is.
Cinco de Ciso would be a five-part salad.
Septo's the seventh, so it'd be Ciso de Mayo.
We don't care.
Ciso, the C6 sea serpent.
We don't speak that language around here. We're Americans.
Yeah, talk American.
Talk American. Come on.
So, welcome into the program here. We are once again at La Divina Italian Cafe. It's just us. We're sitting here very quietly, very reservedly, speaking quietly. Now, they are open, of course, as we like to remind you. Like many restaurants, they're open for call-in takeout orders, 771-8488. That's 771-8488 for a delicious breakfast or lunch later today or even dinner in the early evening. You can come on by, you get contact-free handover, and in some cases, they'll even deliver the food to you.
And, if you've got that craving left over from Cinco de Mayo, Lance will speak Italian to you.
Yeah. Lance, are you on Uber Eats?
Yes.
Uber Eats says.
Uber Eats. But I've given him all the great phrases in the Sicilian dialect that he can use on you. Please don't remember them and talk to anybody who speaks Sicilian because you're not going to like it. But I've given him the phrases.
So, later in the program, how soon are we going to get Lisa on?
I'm going to get there in about 5-6 minutes, somewhere on there.
We're going to talk a little bit about the plight of restaurants as this thing drags on. And I was talking with some friends yesterday, and they're politically minded, and they're saying, well, you know how when it got within a few days of the end of the governor's declared shutdown to April 30th, how he extended it to May 15th, expect him to do that again. That's their hunch. That's what their gut is saying.
I hope they're wrong. But
I think if he knows what's good for him, if he's smart, of course he's a second-term governor. He doesn't care.
Well, he's tapped out. We have had people speak with us both on our television show and here from inside the industry saying this is not going to help. In fact, it may harm restaurants more than it will help them.
Look, forget restaurants in general. This thing is doing more harm than it is good. Mm-hmm. I know people are dying, and I don't want any more Karens coming up to me and going, hey, you want people to die. Of course I don't want people to die. I also don't want people to commit suicide because they've lost their livelihood. I don't want people to fall into despair and need mental health treatment because they have tapped out their life savings. Okay? We're doing more harm than we are good right now. We need to reopen our economy.
I heard a quote the other day, and the quote is this: "We are all born astride the grave." The fact is, in every endeavor in life, whether there is a disease or a speeding automobile, everybody is dying from the day they are born. Now, that doesn't mean I want to hasten anybody's demise. Don't get me wrong. But physicians learned many, many years ago, when death was the only enemy, that there was a lot of pushback from patients themselves, from family of patients, from their own colleagues, from ethicists saying, look, you are not going to be the first doctor who makes the second person to have eternal life. It's not going to be you. What you need to concentrate on is quality of life. And that's the thing we've got right now. We have a patient that is in various stages of healing or dying. Take your choice. But you also need to worry about quality of life. It does you no good to save every person if they have nothing to live for.
Anybody who's had a dog or a cat that has grown to the end of their life knows about having to make this decision. The vet says, at some point, you need to think about your poor animal's quality of life. Now, I'm not saying we should euthanize people. That's not what I'm saying. And please don't.
Oh, I can think of a short list.
Please don't pull a never Trumper on me and put words in my mouth. Kevin Gallagher thinks you should euthanize old people. But
I was thinking young people.
We have to think about the America we're going to have left over to us on the backside of this thing, because we all just believed what we were told. Nobody questioned anything, and we all went and hid in our little hidey holes for 6 weeks. Well, our economy went to ruin.
Now,
some people that had to quit doing their jobs won't get those jobs back.
Yeah, and there are companies that are shutting their doors. I mean, the thing is, the social distancing, the hand washing, and perhaps the stay at home as much as possible on the front end of this was somewhat helpful. I agree. Now we're at the point where this is kind of like, I guess the best example we all have is the California brush fires. Okay. Do you keep everybody out there, all the airplane tankers, all the fire engines, all the tanker trucks, all the men and women, when you're putting out hot spots? No. You have a skeleton crew that works on the hot spots. And I think we're at that point now. And I also think there's been no consistency. And that really bothers a lot of people. And a lot of people think it's all lies. It just bothers me because people who want to do the right thing by themselves and by others are getting so many conflicting messages. Again, having this thing where there is no enforcement modality, I mean, I saw with my own eyes a restaurant that was blatantly violating the simplest part of this, which is sanitizing your outdoor tables between guests. And we talked about this restaurant amongst ourselves here 15 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. And there is nobody checking to ensure that they do what they're supposed to do. And you know what? That puts all the other restaurants who are doing what they're supposed to do at a disadvantage because these products cost a lot of money. And it takes manpower you're paying to do that. That's the problem I have. You know, if you're going to come down like this, then you damn well better come down with an iron fist at the beginning and make an example of people who stick their middle finger in the air, Tony Spell, or everybody else that says, screw it, they're not looking at things, they're not enforcing things.
You know what? We've talked many times about Reverend Tony Spell, and I'm about language alert, ladies and gentlemen. I don't have a problem with a preacher who says it's everybody's right to go to services if they want to take that risk. So in that respect, I don't have a problem with Reverend Spell. What I have a problem with is he's been a total asshole about it the whole time.
Well, I have a problem with the judge that sets bail, that sets a bail condition, and then when the guy basically sticks his finger in the air and sticks his tongue out at the judge acts like he's gone blind, deaf, and dumb. I got a big problem with that. This is somebody who's on our payroll. We elect these judges. Tony Spell isn't on my payroll. Not on your payroll either.
Nope.
Unless you've had a big religious conversion in the last
whose
few days.
payroll he is on is his parishioners. And if his parishioners approve of him and they want to continue to pay him and they want to have church services, that should be their right. At some point, we should be allowed to take our chances, use precautions or not use precautions, and the governor should say, you know what, I've told you and I've told you and I've told you, masks, gloves, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you're not going to do that and you get the virus, don't come crying to me.
Well, yeah.
For free state health care, okay? Don't come crying to me.
But also, if you give the virus to somebody else outside of your church, then you're going to be held responsible for it.
I don't think so. Do you think anybody's going to be prosecuted because they gave someone the coronavirus?
No. I'm saying this would have been the proper way to do that at the front end. Now, no. Well, should we call our guest here?
Yeah, dial her up.
Now, have we got this muted?
Well, I've got the volume down, yeah.
All right, so
One way to tell if it's working is once you get the number dialed, if I can hear it ringing.
All right.
So let's turn it up. Yeah.
We hear it ringing?
You're hot to go.
Can she hear me?
Yeah. Hi, how y'all doing this morning? We're doing a podcast.
3 ringy dingies.
Goodness gracious, hello.
4 ringy dingies.
Probably caught her in the shower.
Hi, thank you for calling Gilded Artichoke Catering Company. We're now offering...
All right. You go ahead and leave her a message.
No, I'm not leaving her a message.
Well, you could tell her to call your phone, and then when it rings, we put her on.
Nope, I sent her a text.
She'll see that she got the call.
I sent her a text.
We were attempting to talk to Lisa Boudreau-Lecoq, who is...
I'm not putting up with any more crap. I sent her a text saying we're going to be calling you in 6 to 10 minutes.
She's the proprietor of the Gilded Artichoke Catering Company. She's also a member of the Baton Rouge Epicurean Society and the Louisiana Restaurant Association.
She's out there painting those artichokes. I'll bet that's what she's doing.
Yeah, she's gilding. It's big work gilding those artichokes.
Should I try her again?
I mean, if you want. I mean,
sometimes.
Like I said, when she sees that she missed the call, she'll dial you up.
Maybe not. Maybe she doesn't love me anymore.
That's not the first time we've been stiffed by a guest, Bill.
I know. In fact, it's the second time by her.
Two ringy dingies.
Yeah, two ringy dingies.
I used to love Lily Tomlin until I found out she was a liberal nutcase.
Ah, they're all liberal nutcases. It doesn't mean you don't like their work. Hello?
Yeah, you're going to get the voicemail again, buddy.
Calling Gilded Artichoke.
Yep, there you
Yeah, there we go. We're gilding artichokes.
go. So, today the role of Lisa Boudreaux-Lecoq will be played by Kevin Gallagher.
Let's get that woman over there. She can play the role of Lisa Boudreaux-Lecoq. Actually, you know, Franz frequents a lot of restaurants, and Franz is waiting for his to-go order. Let's see what he thinks of all this. You want to come on over here and go on the record?
Franz is like, once again, I am called upon to bail the exiles out of a crack.
You will be playing the role of Lisa Boudreaux-Lecoq.
Lisa is a very good chef.
And Jerry Mathers as the beaver.
So Lisa is a very good chef, guys.
Mm-hmm.
She makes very good food.
She's a talented chef and a wonderful
She's
person.
involved. Isn't she involved with either Epicurean or?
Well, she's also the regional representative for Baton Rouge area to the Louisiana Restaurant Association, which is why we wanted to have her on,
right.
because I think we're all experiencing confusion over all of this. And there's other confusion. A lot of these retailers that could have been operating as long as they didn't have more than 10 people in their store at a time, and that would apply to about 90% of walk-in retailers, I would think.
So
Now they've been told, hey, you didn't read the fine print. You could have had people in all this time.
So even though I do civil rights work, as you guys know, I've been a big proponent of following the rules, following the order. And I got to tell you, it really chapped my ass when he said, well, you didn't read the fine print. And that statement, my concern is that statement may have a legal ripple effect because businesses that were following the order and closing in compliance to the order now have an issue because what's an insurance company going to say?
You didn't have to be closed?
You didn't have to be closed. Now, there may still be business interruption issues and all that, but that, candidly, guys, that's, and look, I'm not a enemy or huge fan of the governor, but I thought he's been handling this right. I thought that was a mistake. Anyways, yes, very confusing times for restaurants. Not just that, though, but think about this.
I'm sorry, though. Well, finish your thought, and then I'll come back.
I was going to say, think about this, though. What if economically it hurts you more to try to comply with what's going on with this whole seating outside, low capacity? What if it hurts you more to do that? Are you going to have a negative PR effect with your customers and clients because you're telling them, hey, look, I can't afford to do this right now, so I'm not going to try to do this right now? Or are people going to understand? I don't know.
Well, here's the point I was going to make. You didn't read the fine print is what con men say.
Or lawyers.
Yeah, or lawyers. Is there a difference?
And we all know that our governor is, it is and was a very successful trial.
It was in a series of good decision making. To me, if anything sticks out about this COVID-19 crisis that he's done wrong, that was a mistake.
Well, and again, I want to know who has his ear. Is there somebody that's saying, hey, look, I'm hearing from my constituents that their business interruption insurance policies are not paying, and I better let them know that they could have been open or they had to be closed. I mean, why this about face? Because he went into great detail in his first press conference of what that meant. I can't believe he just forgot to read that part of it.
Well, what's contradictory about that statement is, like, let's say you weren't a restaurant, let's say you weren't essential, and you closed shop. Okay? But all this time you could have been open. But now, but then he goes further and says, but now, if you're a mall, you can do storefront sales and pickups, which seems counterintuitive to the statement of you always could do that.
Well, no, he meant always could do that for like the retailers in this center.
Right.
Okay, they didn't have a common entrance.
And what exactly is he talking about? Small mom and pop retail shops when he says you could have been open all this time?
So So
Why couldn't the tattoo parlors be open? Why
let-
couldn't the vape shops be
So
open?
let's read between the lines. What he was really telling all the people, all the businesses that were complying that were non-essential, was go F yourself. That's
Yeah.
really what he was telling them. Everybody that had complied, the non-pastor spells of the world, everybody that had complied, all the small businesses that were not essential or erring towards the side of not being essential, all those businesses that were following his leadership, basically that was a big F you.
Sure it was.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to put it in those terms,
Well, I'm wondering if
But you're right.
I'm wondering if the property and casualty insurance companies called somebody and said, "We're getting hammered here in every state of the union over your decree. I've got a little a children's clothing store here that says they lost $600,000 worth of business and they want me to cover it." Well, I got you. I
what's
understand.
the number one legislative issue being addressed right now?
Tort reform.
Safe harbor tort reform for COVID-19. And by the way, guys, I said it earlier today on another program, I am not what is considered a trial attorney. I'm a trial attorney in the sense that I really try cases, but I'm not.
You're a defense attorney.
I'm not a plaintiff's trial attorney.
You're not a plaintiff's attorney.
So I have no dog in this hunt other than to say I'm not necessarily against safe harbor provisions that would protect businesses. But your point is not lost that maybe somebody said to him, hey, you need to clarify this because and I believe there is a legal consequence for what he said.
And the other thing, yesterday he's doing his thing and he's wearing his little white mask. And
Was he?
Yeah, and he was saying, and he's basically telling us, I want everybody to wear a mask.
Right.
Now, he didn't say this is a mandate from your governor. He said, I want everybody to wear a mask. Well, Governor, I'm here to tell you, look in my eyes. Look, I ain't wearing no friggin' mask, okay? Now,
So-
you're a Democrat. I'm going to quote some of your Democrat talking points back to you, okay? My body, my choice.
So that brings up a good question. If permission to ask Kevin a question.
Yes.
What I have not understood, as I don't wear a mask while I participate on your show, thank you guys for letting me come. I have been unable to.
Deviated septum. Breathing is not always easy for me.
So it's in part the illusion of safety.
Well, here's the deal.
That's it. I've got to put myself in an uncomfortable position to make you feel good.
Right.
The kind of mask,
Bullshit.
The kind of masks that most people have, the kind of mask I have in my car right now, is a medical procedures mask. That's what 90% of us have. We don't have N95s and all that. When I worked in the hospital, it was understood that we wore these for the protection of the patient. In other words, I worked in an emergency room. If we were sewing up some kid's arm because he fell off his bike and got a laceration, we didn't want anything falling out of my nose or mouth if I, kind of licked my lips absent-mindedly and a little something fell out. We didn't want that in the wound. All right, what we're doing now, and people widely misunderstand this, is this mask that I would be wearing if I went to Trader Joe's serves only to protect somebody else from some of my coughs if I cough.
Right.
I maintain it does nothing more than makes people feel bad.
No, it does. It does. You got to admit.
It's like the airplane.
It's going to stop. It's going to stop a lot.
It's like
of
the
my
flotation device on the airplane, right? You feel better knowing that there's a flotation device, but let's just be candid.
As I
Plane
actually,
goes down, you're dead.
well, let me tell you what. I actually had a funny story. I was sitting next to a guy that was afraid to fly, terrified. And as they're doing the briefing, he takes the vest out from under his seat and he spreads it out on the floor in front of him. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I want to be ready." I said, "Are you kidding me? The fall's going to kill you." I mean,
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
yeah, exactly.
Ashley poses the question. Wonder how much damage the mask wearers have done to themselves from rebreathing carbon dioxide.
Shout out to Ashley.
Not relevant.
So I get it. There are some people that really have a legitimate issue in wearing masks. I get it. I'm gonna wear. I'll tell you, Kevin. I'm gonna wear a mask because it doesn't hurt me. I have the mask. I'm gonna comply. To me, it's a choice. I do agree with you. It is a choice. Right. Now, the bigger question is going to be when businesses open back up. You walk into a business, restaurant or otherwise, and they say, restaurants counterintuitive because you can't eat with a mask on. But let's say you go, what's a store that you frequent? You go to the store and they say, well, sir, you can't come in without a mask on. I see Kevin being the guy that's going to say,
well, fine, you don't get no money today.
Well, yeah, I mean, but
well, and there's nothing wrong with either of those scenarios.
Right,
that's right.
Right. The business has the right. Yeah.
My choice. I'm not, I'm just saying, don't try to mandate that I have to run around with a stupid mask on, especially at the price. Have you priced these things lately? Masks that you used to be able to buy 50 of them for $6.
I bought 2 bundles from Lance at La Divina. We've had the discussion.
You must be planning on doing a lot of coughing and sneezing.
No, I bought them, guys. Candidly, I bought the Borghardt law firm, my firm, bought 2 bundles, 1 to support Lance, 2 because I'm going to give them away.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing.
Borghardt firms.
And and by the way, I have to wear a mask to court. When courthouse opens, I have to wear a mask to court.
Again, a lot of this stuff is difficult for people because they either don't really understand or they don't want to understand, okay? But as someone who used to wear a mask for 2 or 3 hours every single day when I worked my shifts in the ER, you feel a little stuffy inside, that's part of it. You do get used to it after a while.
Skin rash.
Some people have sensitive skin. I never had a problem with that. But here's the deal. If they didn't work to protect other people from your spit, people would not be wearing them for hours at a time in hospital settings because they would know that they didn't work to protect other people. The cops would not have spit masks that they put on suspects that they think are infectious, or the people that scream thinking they're not going to get arrested. I have HIV. They slap a mask on them. In courts, there are some criminal defendants that are a little nuts, and they will spit. What's the first thing that happens? Is they put a mask on them. So they do work, but they don't work to help you from getting sick. And that's the thing a lot of people have an expectation of or a false notion of. They are to protect other people from you.
From you,
so,
exactly.
So what I think is remarkable is you have the Chris Christies of the world who have publicly said the value of restarting our economy outweighs the chance of mass death. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's on the record saying that. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but essentially, we need to roll those dice and we need to risk mass death in exchange for kickstarting the economy. And candidly, depending on what your experience during this crisis is, you may be on board with that because every day that passes, your business is slowly sinking. Well, or if your experience is I'm okay right now.
We're doing everything we're doing because we're afraid we'll get sick.
Exactly.
And as Bill and I, our parting words to each other yesterday, we were talking about this. It's like leaving the house is a risk. Any day you leave the house, we live in a city full of some of the worst drivers on the planet.
Yep.
And they're all now, with less drivers on the road, driving dangerously fast on even some of this, like Coursey Boulevard. 60, 65 miles an hour up Coursey Boulevard. Mm-hmm. 75 is nothing on I-12 and I-10 these days.
The 5 people that were killed by automobiles and they were pedestrians in the last 10 days, their masks didn't protect them.
And no disrespect to any of our area industries, but probably the air we're breathing in Baton Rouge is slowly killing us.
Oh, let's not forget all the 15-year-olds that are running around with guns.
So life is risk, I'm sorry, and you can't live your life in fear that something may happen to you.
But, here's the thing. Chris Christie is an interesting man because I think he's very smart, although I think sometimes he dumbs it down when he speaks and it gets in his own way. But we can't have inflammatory, emotional discussions if we want to talk about this. It's like
sorry, I'm all emoted.
But Jay Darden is a friend of mine. I've known Jay since college. I think Jay is a very competent person. But when he came into our radio studio 3 years ago, and the first thing he said was, "People will die," that killed any notion of having a reasonable, dispassionate.
I wanted to cut the interview short.
Yeah, a reasonable, dispassionate. And so what we've got with COVID is we're saving lives. We've got, what if it was your grandmother? Now, how many times have you heard that? You know, you don't want to bring this home to your grandmother. How many times have you heard that? Yeah, you feel fine now. And all of that is emotional speak. What that does, and Franz, you should know this, is it backs people in a corner and it takes away their reason and logic. What we need to say is, let's look at this realistically. Are you willing to save every single life and trace every single contact and hospitalize every single person, isolate every single possibility until proven otherwise, at the expense of saving everything for nothing to go back to?
So I think the problem is there were a lot of intellectually honest conversations that we didn't have at the front end of this.
That's correct.
For example, had the hospitals just come out and said, and people tried to convey this, but look, guys, we're concerned about capacity. You're going to get sick. We can't stop that. Had the hospitals, the doctors, the government said, what this is really about, this whole flattening the curve idea, what this is really about is our inability to handle the surplus of capacity of
all at one time.
All at one time. You know what? I think people would have said, I understand that. But they didn't go that route. And candidly, guys, you tell me, I mean, you guys are pretty much have your finger on the pulse of Baton Rouge. I think most Baton Rougians, they care about whether or not we're going to have football in the fall.
Yes.
And they care. And again, your circumstances in this crisis. Am I going to have a business to go back to? Am I going to have a job to go back to? You know.
We said that yesterday on television. I won't blame Kevin for this. I said it. I said what will change the stay-at-home orders and the isolation and everything else will be LSU football, because there will be fire torches, protests in the streets. People will break into the stadium to go sit in the seats they paid for. And
Not just LSU, prep football.
Well,
Never underestimate the popularity of
it'll
prep
also
football.
happen in Tuscaloosa, and it'll happen in Gainesville,
Yeah.
and it'll happen in Athens, and it'll happen in Knoxville.
So-
and it'll happen in South Bend, Indiana.
So I was.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Tommy makes this point. Just threw this up, and he makes the good point. People do not seem to understand the concept that flattening the curve does not make the virus go away.
You're right, Tommy. Absolutely right.
The virus is here. It's not going anywhere. At some point, we have to think about letting the virus run through the populace in hopes of developing enough people with antibodies to have herd immunity.
Well, and you've also got one of the major drug companies, and this doesn't surprise me because this is a pretty reputable operator, been doing this a long time, Pfizer, who has a lot of their research headquartered in Germany, where the coronavirus passed through, and so they're gathering antibodies. They have been working diligently on a quick vaccine, which may, in fact, it's already in human trials now. It may, in fact, be available within 3 or 4 months.
It also it doesn't help the arguments that we're hearing for control. That we have a big argument going on over a drug that's been HCQ. It's been with us for a long, long time. It's readily available. It's cheap as dirt. And it's been shown to be, when used with, is it amoxicillin?
No, azithromycin.
Zithromycin, Z-Pack. When used with doses of zinc and a Z-Pack, very efficacious in treating this virus. But yet people don't like it because there's remdesivir, which is very promising in treating the virus. But guess what? Remdesivir, brand new, and about $1,000 a dose.
Yeah, they've donated the first
So,
million doses of remdesivir.
Don't talk to me about the public good when there's bullshit economics at play on how to treat this thing.
Well, if you look at the research on both drugs, remdesivir, if it's effective, the price will come down to where it's covered by insurance companies and it'll get out there. The problem with the quinidine derivative,
Hydroxychloroquine.
Thank you, hydroxychloroquine.
Rolling these words off
And-
the tongue, man.
And
HCQ.
And azithromycin it has to be given an IV infusion slowly and over a long period of time. And they have found out while they had original rallies for people that had COVID, those with the comorbidities, it didn't work for them at all. You know, again, I can shoot you full of it, and if you've got COPD, you're still not going to make it.
Your COPD might have killed you anyway.
Well, that's the whole point. So, you know, if you want to argue about, oh, they didn't let this drug come into play, like
And why is it $1,000 a pill, guys?
Because it's new.
because it's new, and they spent.
And what's the cost?
Well, they spent about $20 billion developing it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason.
Okay.
But it will go down. Trust me. But the thing is, everybody wants to argue over the minutia and not talk conceptually. You know, we could spend trillions of dollars on a flu drug. Okay? We could. There's no reason to do that because a drug is not going to eradicate flu. It's going to come back. We have a vaccine that is about 80% effective, and that's good enough. And people want to argue over, these minutia things that don't address the entire problem. Somebody's telling me about, oh my God, what the government has authorized in Medicaid payments for COVID is like 3 times higher than pneumonia. Yeah, because they need 3 times more people to take care of a COVID patient. They have to be in isolation where pneumonia doesn't. But, you know, why are you even worried about that? What you need to be worried about is how do we get to a scientific state where we can go back and go to work and know that there are going to be people that get it, but it's not going to be hundreds at a time.
So I will share a personal story. So 5 or 6 weeks ago, Shannon went on a cruise. My wife went on a cruise. The week before Mardi Gras, she went to New Orleans to some parades. And then for Mardi Gras, we went to Disney. Mm-hmm. So we come back.
Why didn't you just swim in a Petri dish and lick it on your way out?
We come back, and Shannon gets really sick.
And she got tested?
Did not qualify for testing. Did x-rays of her chest, no fluid on the lungs, but had symptoms. Mm-hmm. Had chest pains and cough for about a week and a half to 2 weeks.
Well, first thing, she needs a new doctor if her doctor wouldn't send her for a test.
Right. So the urgent care facility that she went to calls her up, fast forward to this last weekend, calls her up and says, hey, we think you may have had it. We have the antibody test. We want you to come in and take the antibody test.
As long as you got $125.
We're getting there. Mm-hmm. So I, who also don't qualify to take the test, do qualify to take the antibody test. Mm-hmm. So we get there, and it was like $110, $115. Let's say $125. So we pay the $125 times 2 because insurance doesn't cover that. And I read the fine print of the antibody test. First of all, if it comes back positive, it could be a false positive.
Yeah,
if
always.
it comes back negative, it could be a false negative.
Every lab test.
It could come back negative because I currently have it and I don't have the antibodies for it. So I'm just sitting there thinking, why, logically, intelligently, why did I do this? Well, the truth of the matter is from an emotional place, I wanted to know if I'd already had it. And I was willing to pay the $125.
And did you get your results?
I have not yet got my results. I am convinced that she had it. I'm convinced, and I'm hoping that she has the antibodies. I'm hoping that I had it, so that I have it as well. But that's because I'm also laboring under maybe a false delusional position of, well, I've already had it, so I can't get it again, even though we don't know that or not.
No, we don't know that.
Yeah.
And we will know that probably in 4 or 5 months. But here's the thing. We get on all these side arguments, and that's what's been happening for the last 3 weeks. There's this guy, and I can't remember his name. He's a TV host on E! He had COVID. He was positive for COVID. He survived it just fine. And he also happens to be gay. And he wants to go and give blood plasma so they can use it for treat others. However, gay men have been eliminated from being able to give blood or blood products since about 1985. HIV risk. HIV risk and risky lifestyle. And he has started this big campaign, it's not fair, I'm being discriminated against. And you know what they're going to do eventually?
Relent?
No, that's not what they're going to do. I hope he's watching. I hope he's a fan of ours. And again, I don't care what you do with your own time or your own thing. That's your business.
You be you.
You love the one you love or the ones you love. Here's what they're going to do. There's going to be a lot of argument that detracts from what's really going on with people not being able to go back to work or see grandma or whatever. And they're going to do a shut up and get back in the truck solution. What they're going to do is you fill out the form that says, yes, I am homosexual. And it's okay. When was the last time you had unprotected sex? Not in the last.
Let's see. It's 11:30.
Yeah. Well, no. You're gonna say not in the last month or whatever. And you get okay. And then they're gonna sit you down. They're gonna put the needle in your arm. They're gonna take the blood unit. They're gonna spin the plasma off if that's what you want them to do. And they're gonna take all the equipment, all the manpower, and then the unit is gonna go in the dumpster. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Make you feel better.
And
we're not going to use
and not have to listen to all the yan 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 yan. And the unit is going to go in there.
But, Bill, that is relenting.
No, it's not. Relenting would be actually giving the blood to somebody.
No, relenting is we're going to go ahead and take your blood because you're so headed up about it.
Could they screen the blood for these concerns?
Well, you hope so.
Well, but it's very expensive, and blood supply is extremely perishable. I mean, there are very good reasons that you have these conditions in place. I mean, it used to be that prisoners could make more money while they're in prison by donating blood plasma.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and again, you started killing a lot of people in surgery, like Isaac Asimov is one who got killed when he got blood units.
He got bad plasma?
From a paid donor. You cannot pay donors anymore.
I didn't know that about Asimov.
Yeah, that's what
He's
killed
one of my
him.
favorite authors.
He had open heart surgery at NYU Langone because he was a professor at NYU. No, he's Columbia, the Weill Columbia Medical Center, and he developed HIV after blood transfusions, and that was paid donor land. It was you could still have paid donors, and hell, when I was in college, they paid me to donate plasma. There's a reason these restrictions are in place. And the thing is, people take this personally.
People take a lot of things
John
personally.
Bell is not
Because
saying.
it's our lives, Bill.
But John Bell is not saying, Franz, I'm screwing you on dining out. It's not personal.
Right.
The same thing with this guy from E or MTV. It's not personal. I'm sure you're a very nice guy, and you've probably got very nice blood. But these restrictions are there for a reason, because A, it speeds the process. B, it doesn't expose those collecting the blood and blood. Listen, Karen used to be the blood donor coordinator at Our Lady of the Lake. She did that for about 7 or 8 years. You would be amazed how many times people who do this all day long in a blood bank get stuck because of a donor. And let me tell you what, that is an everybody's hair is on fire drill these days. So if it's truly only 9 to 11% of the population that is male and homosexual, you can eliminate that from your donor area without any great detriment to the nationwide blood supply, and you also eliminate all these cost and risk factors. Now, why doesn't that make sense to this guy?
Why? I'm not a gay male.
There's time. You're young.
But there's time. I recently gave blood, and we did the blood drive at Sullivan's. And
Yes.
I recently gave blood, and I was on the bus by myself with 3 phlebotomists, and they were asking me the questions. They were asking me, have I ever taken money for sex? And I blurted out, I wish. I mean, I was like,
like at the airport saying, "Can I check your bag?" Okay,
Right.
watch out for that bomb.
So we all laughed, but I remember thinking in the moment. They asked me, all the invasive questions that you've alluded to about sexual orientation, high risk lifestyle,
IV drug abuse.
Yeah. I remember saying I live a very boring life, but I remember thinking in the moment, this is a blood donation, like just take my freaking blood, right? I get it. I also can empathize with someone who views the world, who has had maybe decades of difficulty getting a fair shake, and equal treatment, viewing this as just one more thing.
Maybe he's been
Yes.
shaking
Even though-
it too much over
Yes.
those decades.
Even though, again, you've already pointed out in the show, you can't. Some people, there's no emotionless, rational conversations. Like, it's not personalized to you. It's the cost-benefit analysis of, we can't take your blood because the benefit is outweighed by all these other risk factors. It's nothing against you. Live your life, you know?
But this is the society that we have become, you know, and unfortunately, at a time of crisis particularly, it gets very, very distracting. You know, everybody, almost everybody, I think after 9/11 was outraged when you had the small group of people that said it never happened. It's all an illusion. And then you had the other group of people that said, you know, that Mossad wired the buildings with electronic timers and did it to blow up the World Trade Center so that we would go to war with all the Arab nations. You know, and the problem is, at the beginning of it, everybody's, please. And then what happened after that was that it grew, that moment grew. And as we've said here, I think you were at the table when I said it a couple of weeks ago, one of the biggest problems with a health crisis, any kind of health crisis, and it happened with HIV, it happened with Legionnaire's disease, it happened with a number of things, is that most people in this country now can make it all the way through high school and all the way through a bachelor's degree without ever having a serious biological science class. And so the scientists who want to speak to America don't speak very well to America. And the people who have never had any kind of science background don't understand that science is evolutionary. It is a moving target. It changes all the time. And damn it, we wanted answers on February 28th, didn't we? And the real answer was, we don't have a clue. But they knew that wouldn't play well.
I know.
So they went through maybes and kind of and sort ofs. And that pissed people off. And particularly those who don't want to understand that science changes, you know, as you have an evolving type of a deal.
Let me move this back around to Franz's area of expertise.
Food? Law?
No, the law.
Right.
The law.
The law. I am the law.
Before you do that, though,
That was the greatest post.
before you do, Kevin, I just want to tell you, about 10 minutes ago you made a statement about you're not a plaintiff's lawyer. I'd like you to just reconsider that, because I have already composed in my mind the COVID commercial for the Borghardt law firm.
I'm telling you, he needs to use that clip. from
Did
Judge Dredd.
did somebody that looked kind of sketchy cough in your general direction? Were you prevented from going to work?
So
You may be entitled to a large settlement.
I will let me address that. So I do some civil work. I've done some civil cases. I have active civil lawsuits, but on scale, I would not fit into the category of quote unquote trial lawyer. So, I mean, and candidly, guys,
He's no
I'm no
Spencer Callahan.
I am no Spencer Callahan. Great jingle, Spencer. Can't forget that number, even if I wanted to. Candidly, I'm known for criminal law and for legal commentary. So, but what's your question?
What do you see as the legal environment on the backside of this thing? I mean, are we going to go hyper litigious? Will people
Yes.
have cases to file?
So I think I said this earlier today on another show. I think when economic times are bad, I think when you have nothing to lose, there'll be a tendency to file suit over anything and everything. Whether it's the governor's statement, there'll be suits against the state. There'll be suits against the federal government. There'll be suits until and such time that the legislature does safe harbors, and even then there'll be constitutional challenges to the safe harbors. There will be all sorts of legal suits over everything. Somebody's going to get sick over a mask, or they'll have some kind of reaction to a mask. There'll be a products liability suit. Workers' compensation is the workers' compensation law is the law area that I'm most worried about. And sadly, guys, I'm not an employment law lawyer.
Well, I'm surprised we haven't already seen news stories about people having an allergy to their latex gloves because
Right.
that's like peanut allergies were 15 years ago. That's growing.
So-
and it's bad if you're
so-
allergic to latex.
For workers' compensation, injured during the course and scope of your employment, our law says that your employer has to take care of you, and in exchange for that, they get certain civil suit liability, immunity. So the problem, of course, is it's easy at a packing plant where all your employees get sick from COVID-19 to say, you probably got it while working. It's more difficult and problematic when you cannot establish what was the cause or source of your illness. And if you can't prove that it was course and scope, then you don't get workers' compensation. And then you have the issue of, well, do you have the employer that's been like this? Hey, if you don't feel good, just stay home. Or do you have the employer that's been like this?
You better get your ass
Hey,
into work.
I don't give a damn. You need to be out there working. So,
Well, and that's one of the minority investigative things that you're talking about. A lot of these people were required to go to work when it was unsafe because they're in lower paying jobs, Janet, and may be true, may not be true. But, I remember when I thought I was a good candidate for it. I spiked that high fever. I felt like hell. My doctor ordered a test, but it was going to be a couple days before I could get it, and it was going to be 5 days before I got it. If they wanted to contact trace me, I would have had to say, I don't know.
Yeah, a guy like you, you're
So-
everywhere.
But I wasn't everywhere then, and I couldn't remember being around anybody who was sick except for Ted James.
was it New Orleans?
And
Were
that was
you around Ted James?
I saw him at a store, and he gave me a big hug. But it was 3 weeks before he came down with it.
So New Orleans, I believe it's New Orleans, they've talked about business tracking, where Lance would have to write the name down.
Latoya the Destroyer. She's talking about.
Yeah. And so I got to tell you, I'm not sure they can compel, I've said this about a lot of things, not sure they can compel you to keep quote unquote track of your business.
You're the expert, but I want to hope not.
I mean,
What do you think about the governor snitch on your neighbor website?
what's the Karen?
The governor set up a website where you can basically report people that aren't complying, blah, 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 blah. It's like the governor of another state did that, and, okay, incoming language alert. I can't remember which state. I think it was Michigan. Set up a snitch website. They were inundated with dick pics.
Well, that's what's going to happen here. And again, folks, go ahead and use it. No enforcement. Have you seen any enforcement in the state of Louisiana? Nobody's going to. They're not going to send the National Guard to your neighbor's house because you're having a birthday party. Come on. This has been the biggest toothless tiger that I can ever remember. This has been the biggest toothless tiger since JFK in Vietnam. I mean,
Wow. But we've seen examples in other states. Louisiana has not been as harshly administrative.
if we were
Is that
going to
because
do it, we
They-
would have done
we
it.
broke
Is
up
that
a block
because-
party the first week, and that was
Is that
about it.
because more people have complied than not complied?
That's what I
And that
think.
it's easier to look at Pastor Spell and say, this guy's a Nimrod, and candidly, he wants and craves the attention we're not going to give. He hasn't, and by the way, guys, it's been real quiet over there. Something's going to happen. I feel
Well,
like something's going to happen
let
because
me-
it's been quiet.
What's the last time I saw him? He was in violation of house arrest to show up at the protest at the governor's mansion. He was right there across the street from the governor's mansion.
But-
It's like, send a couple of those state troopers over there and bust his ass.
Again, you asked about, the beginning of this, and I think you know the answer to this. It's like, why do we have more street crimes units vehicles in 70805 than we do in 70810?
There's more crime.
More potential at the very least. And I do think that there was a feeling that we're going to have certain areas that are going to be more non-compliant than others. So you asked about complying in Baton Rouge.
I just heard a dog whistle just then, Bill.
Well, but as it turns out, that was an incorrect assumption. Okay? As it turns out, that was an incorrect assumption. But they were all making this up as they went along. And, the thing is, and it's not just here, you got a whole lot of high hair, penny loafer wearing, never had to write a payroll check in their lives, people advising you. If you really want to get out in front of this, put people on your task force that have to pay taxes, write checks, employ people, keep doors open, sanitize tables, have shelves stocked, have that group advising you. Then perhaps you'll make better decisions. When you got people that don't have a damn thing at risk, it's easy for them to say, you know what, Mr. Borghardt, your waiting room holds 15 people. You got to cut a third of it out.
So I was on my way over here to have a tasty La Divina breakfast. I heard about the mayor's task force, the Baton Rouge mayor's task force, and the individuals on the task force. And I can remember thinking, these men and women, great leaders, great businessmen men and women. Do they understand what it's like to be Lance?
No.
And so, where's the balance there? You could put Wampole on a task force, and he's a great civic leader, right? Great human being.
Yeah.
But to some degree, I absolutely agree with you.
But at least Mike came from the ground up.
Right.
He's been there.
And
Yeah,
I'm
but
not.
it
And
could
by
be
the way,
argued that-
and by the way, I'm not. That comment on my part was in no way.
No,
a
it's
You're
slight on
just
it.
using
was
Mike
representative, yeah.
Yeah, just using it as an example. I like Mike Wampole, but yeah, to some extent, these guys that are put on these task force are usually insulated from the reality of the thing.
So the other takeaway I've been really thinking a lot about is self-reliance. We are a society that doesn't do self-reliance well, right?
Well, we think we do.
We think we do, but we're not Wyoming. We're not Montana. There's limits to our self-reliance. When people are complaining and bitching about cutting their own hair, that pretty much tells you the dandelion situation we're dealing with. Your hair looks beautiful, by the way, Bill.
Thank you.
I've been cutting my own hair too.
Yeah,
I
can
couldn't
see.
even begin. I need a lawnmower to
Yeah,
cut
but your hair is glorious, Kevin.
Thick and lustrous, beautiful,
glorious.
glorious. That's a good term.
Try managing it.
I've used the thick and lustrous.
Right. So
Just washing my hair in the shower adds 5 minutes to the shower time.
And $5 to your water bill every month.
No kidding.
so the thing I struggle with is the intellectual talking heads that you alluded to that don't know necessarily what it's like to be in the trench, that don't know what it's like to be on the receiving end of, hey, am I not going to be able to pay my rent or mortgage this month? And yeah, you're making statements about how I can't be evicted, but that's not stopping the landlord from making threats. That's
and let's talk about all of this stimulus money, which has, in a lot of ways, by its very nature, drawn a lot of battle lines. And I'm not so sure that wasn't an unintended consequence that people in power liked having. I mean, the backlash here. Well, Albertson's got, stimulus money. It should go to the little guy. Well, how many people does Albertsons employ in a given market as opposed to the little guy? And what are you really trying to do? But it was designed to pit people against each other. I love small business. I owned a small business in this city for 28 years. Mm-hmm. But if something like this happened when I was still in business and there was a branch of Young and Rubicam here that employed 200 people, I would hope to hell they would get the stimulus and keep those 200 employed instead of my 21. Yeah, I think there's still a thing. But I mean, the point is, a lot of this it made for an us against them, which when you're dealing with a crisis is never a good situation. I mean, look at the airline. We had an airport commission meeting yesterday. It's a public meeting, so I don't mind talking about it. But we did it with a GoToMeeting app. Mm-hmm. We were on screen, and people could watch it at home or wherever. But we're looking at airports, and through March, Baton Rouge Metro Airport is down about 63%. New Orleans Airport is down almost 80%, right at 78%. The reason? Most of their travel is tourism. And their mayor is doing her very best to kill tourism well into 2021. Now, what are going to be the consequences of those proclamations she's making right now? Nothing through the end of 2020. She doesn't know that that's wise or prudent, but it is killing off It is killing off their tourism dollar. Oh, and by the way, it's killing off a lot of airline revenue and airport revenue in their city. And let's not forget, they just leveraged that great big new $1.4 billion terminal that they've got bond service on. Now wait, I'm not done. And then you got everybody saying, well, we want the airlines to get in the air again. They don't know whether they're going to fly at 1/3 capacity and block that middle seat. Gary Kelly from Southwest, who I think has got the best nose for this, said, no, we're not going to do that. People have enough sense that if they want more space, but families of 3 and all that, he said, we're not going to do that. But here's the deal. Every business in America has said, well, we're cutting where we can, including all travel through the end of 2021. Now, how do you expect the airlines to want to fly these $70 million machines with about, $300 per hour worth of flight crew just in the front end when businesses are saying, we're going to halt all business travel? Nobody thinks before they speak, and there is no cohesive, because you know what? They don't have Gary Kelly on the National Task Force. They don't have the CEO of Albertsons on the National Task Force. They don't have Mike Wampold on the National Task Force. Everybody's making guesses about everybody else, and it's all people who, in my opinion, have never had a real job in their life.
Well, and some of these assertions and statements are so unnecessary from the standpoint of, okay, Borghardt Law Firm, when all things are running at full pistons and people are being themselves and committing crimes, it's a successful law practice. I mean, I make a good living doing it. I've tightened the belt. I've gotten my PPP money. I'm not thinking about traveling to Las Vegas for a seminar right now. I mean, candidly, I'm not business traveling right now. And candidly, I may not business travel for quite some time. Even though I enjoy a good old-fashioned tax-deductible trip, it's just not on my radar right now. Mm-hmm. I don't need somebody saying we're not doing business traveling. I don't need that. I've got... Look, I got it.
If there are 1,000 Borghardt law firms that are saying the very same thing, what's the message to the airlines who you would like to survive, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely.
The message is, we ain't going to make it, or we're going to have to jack up the fares so high, nobody's going to travel anyway.
Right. My plan, I said this to my beautiful wife, when all this stuff ends, we are going to leave my son with family. We're going to fly to Las Vegas, do a long weekend in Las Vegas, or somewhere. I want to get out of Baton Rouge for a little while. And I will contribute to the BTR. I love the Baton Rouge. Candidly, I'm this guy. If I could only fly out of Baton Rouge and never have to endure New Orleans, I love the Baton Rouge airport.
And that's a lot of guys. That's a lot of guys and a lot of women. I mean, Karen flew for 10 years, 150 days a year. And she only had to use New Orleans 4 times.
Oh.
And once was because the airplane was broken and couldn't get her a connection to Baton Rouge, so they connected her in New Orleans.
It's just a better, and look, I don't fly a ton. It is just such a better experience.
But the thing is, we all, and I want not to just make this point about the airlines. I want to make it globally. We are all rah, 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 support our healthcare workers, right? We're all like, rah, 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 support our friends in restaurants, order to go, order curbside, go to the restaurants when you can. Nobody is saying, hey, I want to take that trip to Las Vegas in 3 months, and it might not be there, because nobody is saying, you better support the airlines.
Well, the problem...
Nobody is saying, you better support the oil companies.
So here is a classic example of our shame society, and I'm going to go here. As you guys know, Sullivan's is a big supporter of my radio show. Mm-hmm. I love Sullivan's. I love Leighton. I love Kelly. Love it. You guys have done work with me at Sullivan's before.
Yep.
I got blasted. When all this stuff started, I got blasted. Why are you supporting a corporate entity like Sullivan's? To which they're not local. And I said, I beg to differ. I said, the people that work there are very much local.
They're real local.
And I know them. I know their families. And they're exceptionally local. We have, if somebody were to come out and say, you know what, we need to be not only supporting our first responders and our medical people, we need to be supporting local right now. and you guys saw my social media post about supporting local after the order was extended, I got reamed for even suggesting that. Of course, the implication of my statement was, if you don't have the means to support local restaurants and businesses right now, it's okay.
But if
Take
you
care of your
do,
family.
please get
Take care
out.
of your family. Everybody's going to understand that. If you came out, Bill, I'm telling you, if you came out and said, as soon as this ends, you all need to take a vacation, spend some money on the airport, spend some money on hotels, restaurants, all this stuff, you'd get reamed. And you would get shamed. You would get shamed for even suggesting it. How dare you suggest that? That's the irony of this entire situation is there's this weird, where's it okay to devote your efforts versus not? You know?
Well, I think that if you can, great. If not, hold this mindset. I think that you should support the same people you were supporting on January 15th. You know, again, everybody's real proud of Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. And I like Chris Bachman and I love Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, but they're certainly not a local small chain anymore. They're a great big worldwide chain. They got, what was it, $200 million in stimulus money that they were entitled to, but they got shamed into giving it back, like another one of the huge restaurant groups did. But we are never going to build our own automobiles here in Baton Rouge. You know, we are never going to have our own, 40,000-foot department stores here in Baton Rouge. And I suggest most of the people who beat this drum, while they're rubbing their midsection at the same time, probably do the least amount of spending in all these businesses that they're saying, how dare you not support those, Franz? I've always found that those who protest way too much are the ones who have the least skin in the game.
I was more shocked, guys, that there was an implication that I was suggesting that you should go bankrupt supporting somebody else versus the clear intention, which is if you got the means and you're going to eat out, support local. Now's the time.
Yep.
If you want to drop an extra, La Divina, great example. They're doing a $6 first responder meal. You want to drop, and look, I occasionally will buy breakfast and say, hey, here's an extra couple of bucks, put it towards the kitty of feeding a first responder. I'm not saying anybody should do something that's not in their well-being, but in the same breath, I mean, the shame culture is just ridiculous.
Yep. And it's, especially on social media, it's ridiculous.
Well, and you have to
Anything
consider
you
the
say,
source.
someone's going to come back and shame you for it.
Well, somebody got on you, Kevin, for doing something that was totally friendly and innocuous, remember? A couple of weeks ago. When you were talking about, what was it, getting a meal out I remember it was you were supporting a local restaurant, but the waiter driver screwed up.
Right.
And you mentioned it, and somebody got all over your butt.
Yeah, for daring to complain about bad service. It's like I was trying to support a local restaurant. It's George's. It's Smoky.
Yeah.
I was trying to help, trying to support Smoky. So I order, it's like a salad, a burger, and an order onion rings. They're 2.5 miles from my house. I could have gone and picked it up myself, but I did waiter like a dumbass. And this guy picks up my order. The waiter driver picks up my order, and he's like headed for Port Allen with my food. The guy doesn't understand GPS or something.
But the point
doesn't
is,
know right from left. I don't know.
Kevin, and I'm going to take up for you in this one, because it looked to me, when I saw the post, and I saw it in fairly real time, that someone was just waiting to jump on Kevin Gallagher.
Well, don't you get that as well? They know you're a media personality, so they want to tear into you because somehow you think you're smarter and somehow you think you're better.
But I am.
I've never maintained the position that I
kidding.
have. Look, I've never maintained a position as a quote-unquote media personality that I've got anything particularly more on the ball than Joe Average. I mean, I am, as a media personality, Joe Average. I'm your average Joe.
With glorious hair.
With great hair and a good delivery.
I'm not particularly expert at any one thing. I know a lot about. I know a little about a lot of things, and I know a lot about a few things. But I've never tried to put myself off as an expert or anybody that. And if you don't like my post, scroll on or unfriend me or whatever
They
the
were
hell.
waiting. They were lying in wait to jump on you. It sure
Yeah,
seemed
well,
that way to
there,
me.
There are people that are aware of me by name, and they know that I'm at conservative leanings. And,
Well, what is your order was screwed up by?
No, they're just
by waiter have to do
Well, how
with
about-
conservative.
how
or
about
liberal?
this?
because that guy Kevin Gallagher's an asshole.
How
That's
about,
why.
How about
Oh,
this? How about this? When did it become, and I think Bill will probably have an answer for this, when did it become not okay to just disagree?
Oh my
And
God!
it wasn't anything personal. Kevin, I just disagree with you. We can still hang out. We can still be friends. I'll still listen to your show. I just disagree with you, man.
I told a cat that yesterday. We were in an argument, and he disagreed with me, and I said, whatever, man. I hope you stay safe from the death virus and the murder hornets, and have a great day.
Yeah, it's not just because I disagree with you. Just because I disagree with you doesn't mean I hate you. Doesn't mean you're a bad person in some cases.
Well, sometimes it does.
Well, but that very thread that I made, I had a guy that just went totally nutso on me that I had to defriend and block because it was as if I was trying to take his rod and staff. It's okay. We can disagree. It's all right.
Guys, we're running out of time
Yeah,
here. It's
we're-
time to shut it down.
But there's a discussion thread there, Franz, that you started that we may want to explore a little more in depth on another show, don't you think, Kevin?
Yes. There's another topic that I want to bring up. When does the shutdown for murder hornets begin?
Let me tell you what. They're busting their butts. The Department of Agriculture in Washington State. They're trying.
Scary creatures.
It's not. I'm not scared of them stinging me. They had a guy sting himself with one of these things, and they are immense. They're like 2 inches long. They're scary, but he showed it's not a fatal sting unless maybe you have a compromised immune system.
Or you're allergic to bees.
The bigger
like I am.
concern is the killing of the bees.
Is the bees. If these things kill off a great number of the bees,
No flowers.
agriculture
no honey.
goes to crap.
No corn. Yeah. There is a whole another thing there.
Are we good at controlling insect invasion? Like
Well,
we are good at
We
controlling.
eradicated the boll weevil.
I was going to say boll weevil.
Okay, I'm just asking
We did
questions.
the boll weevil.
Just asking questions.
And hey, we air bomb the skeeters in this parish. It's all those LP skeeters that come in and get us.
Y'all, the other day somebody shared, I don't know how they got it transferred to video, but they shared a movie, an old black and white movie of kids running behind the mosquito truck, dancing in the fumes. And on the side of the mosquito control truck, it says DDT. A dildron, a known nerve agent. And these kids are dancing in it. This was like in Covington back in 1962.
We did it when we were kids.
Oh my God.
When the sprayer that you couldn't really see came by, we ignored that because it smelled really bad.
I like to.
But when the big fog came by, we got out in the street and we ran behind that truck. That might explain a lot.
I
of
like to
things.
smoke cigars while the truck comes by to get a little double dose.
There you go. Listen, we got to wrap it up, but we thank you so much. And thank you for stepping
problem.
in, bailing
Thank you,
us out.
Franz.
We will effort to talk with Lisa Boudreau-Lecoq later in the week.
Nah,
here
she's
on the
dead to me.
podcast. Oh, she's not. We love her. Listen, until we talk again, don't forget Exiles TV tomorrow, 10 a.m. on cable. Pelican Broadcasting, check your listings.
Channel 113 or digital 1013.
And until then, take care and may God bless.